What is humans' greatest invention? The sanitary sewer has done so much to improve human life and health that I have to go with it. Thank God for the Romans. Well, apart from medicine, irrigation, health, roads, cheese and education, baths and the Circus Maximus, what have the Romans ever done for us? Writing. Also the printing press. For my money, this is it. For the first time, the rapid distribution of knowledge and information could be achieved. And those who did not adopt the printing press at its inception, still have not recovered. Without the ability to record information for later generations, we'd never advance technologically in any meaningful way. With writing, we can use the work of the past to build upon, without having to start everything from zero. We stand on the shoulders of giants is a quote that comes to mind. If you think about it, it's more like we're standing on the shoulders of millions of other people all standing on each other's shoulders like some crazy skyscraper made of humans, like the most insanely tall tower of acrobats, but most of them dead. Yeah, we would most definitely topple over at some point. It's like a mountain or some shit. When it falls, the rubble just makes a wider base to build on. I've got to remember that, next time I fail at something. My plans may have collapsed, but I've just built a wider base to rebuild upon. Such a cool, inspirational analogy. The toilet, and we want to get deeper than that, sewer systems. Go Romans! Actually, the oldest sewer systems were from the Indus Valley civilization. It's a shame that it was not followed. In all honesty, the Indus Valley had very simple plumbing systems. These systems could be found all over their cities. They built drainage pipes under raised floors in most homes, which were burnt bricks buried in the ground. So, infinitely better than what the richest, most powerful empire on earth had in its own capital city less than 200 years ago? Yes. Lol. Transistors. More broadly, electrification. Nearly every human achievement and aspect of how we live modern life stands in some way on its shoulders. The power grid should be considered the eighth wonder of the world. I don't think people realize how much more difficult an intermittent, omnidirectional and unpredictable grid will be, assuming it is truly possible. We owe a lot to the invention of the transistor. In under 100 years we went from postal mail to the internet, where all of humanity's knowledge is at our fingertips and information travels at literal light speed. It's crazy to think that we are the first generations to incorporate electronics in our daily lives. A transistor is a semiconductor device used to amplify or switch electronic signals and electrical power. Transistors are one of the basic building blocks of modern electronics. It is composed of semiconductor material, usually with at least 3 terminals for connection to an external circuit. Definitely important for all electronics. Invented by the only person with 2 Nobel Prizes in physics, John Bardeen. He's probably one of the least well-known Nobel Prize-winning physicists, even though he has probably made one of the biggest contributions to modern society. No other invention we've ever made has progressed at such a rapid rate for such a long time. Moore's law and its ramifications are mind-boggling. Corrective lenses/glasses. I, and millions of others, would be so screwed without them. And the next step. Lasik. Best decision I ever made. Honestly, if anyone is debating doing it, don't. Do it now. It will change your life. Language. The ability to communicate. Written language. The ability to accurately pass down knowledge. Anyone who has played the telephone game knows that oral stories are easily altered. Oral stories can be very accurate. Indigenous Australians have accurate retellings of geological events occurring 34,000 years ago, Tower Hill eruption, in Victoria. That being said, I do agree that written language, especially the printing press that allowed that language to be mass consumed, was a huge step forward. Before the printing press it was pretty inaccessible. I wouldn't call language something that's invented, but developed. Language is a vague term and could be used to describe primitive yelling, grunts and moans, even facial expressions and rudimentary body language, movement and noises. Language is something that as we evolve into conscious beings, and as we begin to gather, kind of organically becomes a part of our collective existence. We don't invent it, we develop it. Or rather, it kind of just evolves with us. Nobody says, well, here's this language, I invented it. Language just develops along with how our earliest communities used it and advanced it out of necessity for communicating with one another. From a series of grunts and hand gestures into a series of noises manipulated by tongue and lip movement to represent basic sounds that would indicate some fundamental conveyance, and then from there it continues to evolve and change. Language isn't just some quick invention. I don't think language is something we invent, but something we develop. Would you say dolphins invented sonar? Would you say that dogs invented barking? That ants invented whatever the hell they used to communicate. Pheromones? Nobody says, well, here's this language, I invented it. J.R.R. Tolkien would like to have a word with you. But yeah, I get your general point. The wheel. Tell that to the Mayans. Nah, we've heard of this wheel ordeal, and it doesn't really fly with us. Let's just make one of the most architecturally spectacular cities of the time with only the use of canals. Very useful to get around. The thermos. You put something hot in it, it stays hot. You put something cold in it, it stays cold. How does it know? Penicillin. I'd say more of a discovery than invention. Well, the refinement process and application in medicine was an invention. Everything is a discovery with that mindset. Every invention just manipulates the physical world around it. What degree of modification is necessary to become an invention? Modified fungus juice being injected into people to fight disease sounds like an invention if you phrase it the right way, and modern penicillin skips the fungus entirely. Possibly agriculture, since it was pretty much the reason why we still exist. There's an argument to be made that the agricultural revolution actually made many people's day-to-day lives worse for a long time. But it did facilitate division of labor. Once a handful of people can produce enough food for dozens of people, it opens up a lot of free time for some of the people to concern themselves with other specialized activity. I can see where they are coming from, but in the long run, farming is where civilization starts. And with civilization, everything else comes. What I don't understand though is that farming first appeared in 9000 BCE while humans have had the same brains and thought processes for at least 200,000 years. This means that people who thought like us went about 190,000 years without thinking, what happens if I put this plant I like in the ground? Add to that, farming also appeared around the world in places that couldn't possibly have had any contact with farmers over the next few thousand years. In other words, farming appeared at a similar time all around the world independently. The Ice Age ended around 10,000 years BC, and also grain equals seeds from grasses. Why would one bother eating that when wildlife was booming? Antiseptics. Soap. Just soap has saved more lives than any other invention. Mathematics. It gave us the ability to better understand and define our universe. Not to mention almost everything humans invent and create requires math. Good answer, but I see math as a discovery rather than an invention. Oh yeah, you're right, I didn't even think of it that way. Now that I am though, it makes me wonder how much more there is to math that is yet to be discovered. The pizza cutter. People talk of the best thing since sliced bread, or the greatest invention since the wheel. The pizza cutter is a wheel that slices bread, combining a knife with a wheel. It is beautiful in its simplicity. The printing press. I have to go with this one. All the knowledge that could be shared and preserved easily. As someone who literally studies the history of printmaking, I really want to agree. But alas, the success of the printing press could not have happened without the invention of paper. It's the silent underdog of progress. That was honestly my first thought. But then I figured that paper itself was limited without the technology to make the knowledge wider spread. People have written on all kinds of flat mediums for eons. But the printing press made the transmission of that knowledge explode. Oh yeah, totally, it was a game changer. Suddenly books weren't so expensive and literacy flourished. It boggles my mind to think that being able to read, for most of the population, is a relatively new common thing.